All right. Well, let's get started here. I've already lived up to my reputation of being the late Tom Jameson, so let's get going. We have our full contingent of speakers. I think Musa is supposed to be the first speaker. We may have to adjust that if he doesn't get in. He's coming in from Hawaii on Zoom, so was scheduled to be the first speaker. So let me know when Musa is here. But in the meantime, we can start with some announcements. I'll tell you, you have 4 speakers tonight. And 2 of them, there has been a change in plans. 2 of them will be going for their qualifying speaker status, so you'll only be voting on 2. And you will be voting on the third speaker will be Forrest, and he will, and the first speaker will be Musa. Those are the 2 going for their QS candidate. And Kevin is going to do a dry run and be able to come back the next time we do QS, which I expect to be August. Right now, the next time we'll be doing QS qualifying speeches. So it's good to see we have a pretty good number of people online. I'm glad to see that. And we have a little more than usual in the audience. And we'll see they're still dwindling in here. But we have, I'm going to make some announcements about what's upcoming. Right now, starting for this meeting, and then starting in June, a program I'm especially proud and excited about seeing what's going to happen with that, because we have 3 people, probably between the 3 of them, we've got 50 years of HR experience, maybe more. And Sarah Carney is from the School of Nursing. She's got some education background in interviewing people. She'll be one of the people. Deanne Gunneman is Rob Gunneman's wife, and she's spent years and years and years in HR, and now is president of her company. So I guess she's experienced in deciding how to hire people. And then we have Angie Nett, past district governor. Angie will be part of that. 3 people putting on an interactive workshop called Acing the Interview. So if I'm not looking to find a new job, but who knows? I might have to interview a new wife if I get kicked out of the house, find out what works there. But anyway, it should be something really valuable too, especially, and I'm hoping we get some publicity out to schools. I've already made a contact with the Riverside Unified School District, and I think we'll be able to get flyers out to them. And she asked me a question I hadn't pondered before that. She wanted to know what age group are eligible. And I just said, how about 16? We need more young Toastmasters. We can't be 16-year-olds can't be in Toastmasters, but we would be there to help them to have a better chance of getting jobs. And who knows, maybe they may be excited about being Toastmasters when they turn 18. But basically, it'd be good to get it out to college campuses and anywhere else. I think we'll be able to get some information out to the new members of District 203, which we will become. And that will be doubling our size. And so we think we will get a lot more, especially online participation, once starting July 1. July 1, we already have 3 of our speakers, QSs assigned to kind of kick off the year. It actually happens the very first year of the new district. And I am so happy that when I asked Sarah to be one of the speakers at that program, she said, yes, if that's what you want, we'll do that. So Sarah will be speaking, so she'll be able to, and I suggested she address her new district with her vision for the year, and that she sounds like that might be what she'll do. So they'll have a first chance, right, when she's the official person in charge, be able to do that. And so we have a couple of others scheduled. So we should have a great program. I'm planning to put together a really great program, and then we have some qualifying speeches in August, possibly some. But we'll have to showcase many of our QS speakers so that since none of those other districts have a speakers bureau to my knowledge and really don't know what it's all about. So it'll be our job to kind of show them what level of quality of presentations to expect. And I'm looking up here to see whether we have Musa up here yet or not. I do not see him. When you do your voting, if you're online voting, QSs only. If you're online voting, you'll send your vote to Michael Ozier. There's Michael. So send in your chat or wherever it gets to him. He always collects those votes and gives me the news from online, and we collect the news here. So if you're here, you're going to vote on all of those, the QS speeches, the 2, Musa and Forrest. And And let's see. Oh, I have a couple of announcements I have to make. We're going to call Sarah to make some district announcements too. But Connie reminded me. I think the memory book is still available if you order it before the 11th of May. And there should have been a notice out. Probably everybody got a notice with how to go about doing that. So if you did not get a chance to get the memory book, it's pretty special. There's all kinds of great things in here about the history of District 12 going back these 37 years or whatever it is. So it's a lot of good fun memories in there. Good people mentioned with various stories. And Connie, is there anything else I haven't mentioned? I have to, of course, as always, mention my appreciation to the VA hospital for allowing us to be here and have this wonderful auditorium. And every day I count our blessings being able to meet here. Thanks Rob for being the technology guy in the back, that without him, we would be talking to ourselves and not to anybody else. Thanks Sharon Kenty for putting out publicity, and the district for allowing us to continue to exist. So we appreciate the fact that we have a speakers bureau, and it has done some great service. I did have a couple of announcements. We've had a few of our QSs go out to speak at Rotary Club now, thanks to Jeremiah. They've been very successful. We've had, I don't know if Jeremiah's even heard, but we've had Susanna Lee went out, Ed Eddinghausen, Ralph Rivers gave his I Have a Dream speech. That was what started it after that. And the last time we had, some of you may know Nathan's son, who was qualified at 18, the youngest qualifying person that we ever had. And he came there and gave, for a 22-year-old speaking to an audience of 50 people plus 50-year-old people, what his ideas about education in the world today. So they were hanging on his every word as far as I could tell. And he had about a 10 or 15-minute question and answer session. And when the meeting was adjourned, they were still asking him questions coming up after that. So I think we made ourselves welcome. So that was a good thing. All right, since I do not see if Musa has checked in yet, let us reverse the order if David is up to it. David, are you up to going right now?
My head was not in that.
You can wait. I told you last, and I'm going to stick with that. If that's the case, if we don't see Musa, we'll go with speaker number 2 then. Okay, I don't see that yet. He was going to check in. He thought he might have a little bit of trouble getting checked in, so we'll see. Okay. Now, speaker number 2 is Kevin. And Kevin, I know the title of his speech. I will be introducing him because I don't have a lot of other introductions, but he is giving I have the title of it here. Oh, I know. Kevin Melcher. I view cars differently. Kevin. Come on down. All right. There you go with this. And we'll have put that in a pocket or someplace. And a touch.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Take the stage, and you got it. And Rob will give you some direction one way or the other.
Okay. Am I okay, Rob? Perfect. I view cars differently. Fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests, I'm here today and this evening to talk about my story of viewing cars differently. I have a question for all of you. Do you know all your cars? Do you know the car that you drive? You do? What about you, Sarah? Do you know your car? Jeremiah? Okay. I'm going to tell you straight out, you don't. The reason why you do not is because I know cars. For me, the reason why you don't know your car is because Growing up, I actually had a dad who worked in the car business for so long. And he told me a lot of things about cars. And thanks to him, there's so many misconceptions about a car, what we buy. And one of those misconceptions is the look of the car. By looking at these images, would you have ever thought to see a Tesla like this? Yes or no? Like, have you seen a Tesla like this in its raw form? Have you? Okay. Some people would not. You know why? Because when they take a look at, they don't take a look at the inside of the car. They take a look at the aesthetics, the look of the car, right? For me, I have a story to share. When I went to the Tesla dealership or Tesla store in Santa Monica, when I was there, I didn't care about what the look of the Tesla is. I cared about what was inside of the car. Why? Because I want to see the full chassis, the full inside, the maintenance, everything. When people buy Teslas, they take a look at the aesthetic. They take a look at the look of the car, right? Why is it $60,000? Because they're looking at that look of the car, the skin, the body type. I didn't look at that. I looked at the actual base, the body, the raw form of the car. So for me, when I went into that Tesla dealership or that Tesla store, I really had a deep conversation with the Tesla store representative. I said, why are people buying Teslas versus a Ford Mustang? It's because they're buying it because of the aesthetics, the look. They're not looking at the full picture, the interior of the car, the engine. Did you know Teslas are more about the generator, the battery? Did you know that? You knew that? I don't see it that way. I see it as just an image. People buy it because of an image. For me, if I'm going to buy a car like that, I'm going to buy it because of the inside, the raw form. Outside of that, I drive a Hyundai Kona 2019, my dream car. And the reason why I buy it is because it's not just it's a Korean-made car, it's because it is the engine, the reliability. And it's not just it's Korean-made, it's because I just focus on the engine, a lot about the engine, its reliability. You know how much it costs to maintain an actual all-electric car like a Tesla? Do you know how much it costs? Right. Here's one thing most people forget. The moment you leave that car out of the dealership or store, what happens? It goes down, right? The residual. I look at what Sarah drives. I look at what Jeremiah drives. I look at what I drive. That has more residual value. Look at the classic car over here, the Ford Mustang. The reason why classic cars by people buy Ford, Chevy, these Mustangs, these Camaros, it has a good shelf life. The Teslas don't. The Teslas do not have good shelf life. Do you think a Tesla is going to be around 20 to 30 years from now? No.
No.
How old do you think that Chevy is? Or not, I'm sorry, a Ford Mustang. It's a Dodge Dart. Yes, thank you. Good eye. That's a 1971 Dodge Dart. And the reason why I'm showing that is because my friend bought a 1971 Dodge Dart 10 years ago, and he's still building it. I'm sharing with you right now, tonight, in this room, and everybody online. Do you know your car? Do you view it differently now? And the reason why I say view it differently is because don't focus on the aesthetics, the technology that's in that car. Focus on the inside. I'm gonna have you think about that more because, and the reason why I asked that question is, would you buy your own car again versus what's out there in the market? I see yeah. Sarah, would you buy your own car again? I would. That's one thing I want to get out of here. My call to action is this. I want you to think about not the look of the car, look at the inside of your car because it's all about the maintenance. It's all about you driving your dream car, driving that you fall in love and have a relationship with it. I have a relationship with my car. This is a 2019 Hyundai Kona in its raw form. So with that being said, I've been through a lot of auto shows and everything. I look at that, and the reason why I go there a lot is because I love cars. I love not just the look, but the inside of it. It's almost like you're marrying your car, right? So with that, I view cars differently. I don't view it the way it looks exterior. I look at it from the inside. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to have a chance to pour you over the coals now. So this
Yes.
is the chance where you get to hear from your audience on what
Yes.
they thought. And I will hold my thoughts for later, but let's
Okay.
get something we'll start with a couple from in the room about their thoughts. And I suppose we should, I know this is just kind of a beginning dry run
Yes.
for your QS, but Connie will tell us the time. How long was it?
7:52.
7:52. Okay. All right. So now remember that your QS is going to have to be 20 minutes. So we got a taste of what it might be in the future. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see some hands first from our qualified speakers in the room. So if you have some comments on what you heard and saw, we have a few QSs in the room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. David, I'll get you first.
Yeah, thank you. You got me because I'm also kind of a car guy. I've been a car guy for years.
Maybe we should get.
How
How about we take the microphone and I'll get it to them.
65 Mustang,
Mhm.
Barracuda, few other unusual cars. But one thing I wanted to comment on your presentation, one thing I want to comment about your presentation is the fact that when you talk about the older cars and the cars and how you look at them, there's a lot of history. I didn't hear a lot of history about the cars you're referring to, in particular the older cars. And when you mention the fact that most people don't look at the underlying parts of a vehicle, the components and things like that, they look primarily at the aesthetics of the car, which is true. Most people buy for aesthetics, and what they look at a car, they say, I like the way that car looks, I'll buy it. But I think you could expound more as far as the aesthetics, beyond the aesthetics of the cars itself. Now, when you talk about the history of some of these older vehicles, I think what's unique, since I follow a lot what happens in here in California, is that if you would want an older car, you may have trouble getting one because the state is trying to outlaw them altogether. So a lot of the technology that's going into the new vehicles, you might want to touch upon that. The comparison of the old vehicles and what they have and what they don't have, and touch upon what the new vehicles have and the technologies that are going into them, the technology that's going to take away a lot of people's freedoms in driving. As far as how we're going to start monitoring every you do, how they're going to start, rather than you buy a car, you buy the entire car, but then they're going to start selling you subscriptions to certain functions of the vehicle. So if you want heated seats, you have to pay for that as a subscription. If you want a full-blown radio system, you have to pay for that as a subscription. So a lot of changing in the modern technology of cars has forced a lot of changes within the industry. So compared to the old vehicles that you used to buy years ago, you got the entire vehicle, was yours to do what you wanted it to do with it. Nowadays, you're not able to do that anymore. If you were to touch your own brand new vehicle, you would void your own warranty if you were to change oil or have someone else change oil for you. They're proprietary on some of those things. And I think there's a lot of things you could touch upon to really lengthen out this whole speech. As far as the old school and how things were done years ago to how things are done now and the limited amount of things that you can do as an individual if you really are a true car lover.
Okay, the first mistake you made, Kevin, was talk about a debatable topic to a member of the debate club, David. So we'd be here arguing with you all day long about you meet car guys in the room. Pretty soon they get a little carried away. Richard. Oh, I hold this.
Oh, you hold
that. Make
Okay,
it easier.
all right.
Less transfer.
Well, I'm not a car guy, but I appreciate classic cars. I thought you disparaged the audience at the beginning of your speech, as opposed to say, I view cars differently. You might come out with, how many of you appreciate classic cars? 1960s Chevrolets. Or, I think you get a lot of response asking a question. As I thought, you kind of disparaged some members of the audience. I would have liked to have heard what qualifies you. Did you sell cars previously? Do you have people in your family that are real big into cars? Because there's probably several people in the audience and online that really know cars. So if you're going to say, I look at cars differently, what qualifies you? Maybe you're a car guy too. Okay, but and I would, in your introduction or something, that's a place to really, I think, how you qualify. You said, look inside. I don't know what that meant. If you said resale value or they're very dependable. Okay, I understand that. Reliable for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Okay, that I understand. But look inside. I think you're talking about the interior of the car. Like the upholstery and how it feels. Okay, well, that's part of it, but I think you're talking about something different. But when you say look inside the car, okay, look at the engine. That's what, be more specific. You've got a lot of room. You got 7 minutes, so you want to bring it up to about 20. I think you have a start with your overhead, the first visual, maybe have some classic cars on there. When you mislabeled the car, that didn't look very good. That was somebody from the audience caught that. So that's a danger, saying I'm a car whiz, and then somebody in the audience right away, you mislabeled it. No, you want to make sure when you do this, you have your cars, you know them inside and out, interior and exterior. But good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, Jeremiah is next.
Kevin, thank you so much for sharing today. I agree a lot. I agree a lot with what the other people said. I also, like, whenever you started, you repeated your title, and I felt like there was no build up to that. And if you're going to do something like that, you need to have an introduction that really starts growing you into being able to make that bold statement in the beginning. And then I absolutely agree with Richard said, because you just kind of asked, do you know your car? And then from there you said, no, you don't. You don't know anything about what somebody does or anything like that. And so you assume that they don't. I think the way to be able to pull that information out is by asking what do they know about their car? What attracted them to their car? Pulling that information out from them will also let you know your audience before you disqualify them, because that will put people in a position like, well, who are you? And then your slides being out of order. The first thing I noticed, you had a finished car, and then they were kind of all over the place in regards to that. I would have really liked to see them in order, or even different slides to help support the points as you're moving through your speech. And then you also said, did you know how? And then you said, no, you don't. So automatically you asked, do you know this? And then you say, no, you don't. Once again, so you automatically shut down your audience without really knowing who they are or where they are on that. The Dodge Dart picture was absolutely, I thought that was spot on, whatever somebody said that. Not having that, I'm not a car guy, and I knew it wasn't a Ford. And so I think having that makes us start wondering, and it actually discredits you as a speaker in a lot of ways whenever you do that. And then also you said your call to action. as a speaker, as you're going out, you don't need to tell them my call to action is this. They should know what that call to action is because that's what moves them. The one thing I did love, and I wanted to give you a good mark on, is your use of the room. You really connected with your audience in regards to looking all over the room and making sure both sides were connected. So that was really good. But I think the presentation just in general really has a lot of tightening up to do before you kind of cross over to that next level. So thank you.
Well, our next QS is coming up here. I actually, what Jeremiah just said, I actually walked around the room and stood in every part of the room. And even with my ears that are only about half working, I could hear everything you did. And you did look around the room. I thought that was good.
I don't know why I'm following those two, because they're the best. But one thing I would say is when you imagine an audience and there are 1,000 people, when you go, do you know your car, Mercedes? Do you know your car? This. Now you're pointing out to two people. So my advice, don't point out to people. Second, use your voice. You're talking about cars. So who doesn't remember and who doesn't like the boom, boom, and use your voice when you're talking about cars, because it seems like that's your subject. And who doesn't like going from 0 to 60, boom, and who doesn't like that boom, boom? Use your voice. You're talking about cars. There's so much room there to use your variety that you could I was aching for you to do that. And the pros said it best. I think the visuals, one time, I am a car, I have a 26 and a 65, so I love cars. I don't know anything about how to fix them, don't know anything about inside them, but by the way, he just blew you out, your Tesla. Do you feel better?
He's in trouble. He's in deep
Oh,
trouble.
he is in big trouble. But use your voice, use your thing, you got it going. The call to action, never forget it. You need a call to action or there is no winning. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I've got Sarah here, and then we'll get to the hands in the audience too. David, tell me who they are once I get to Sarah. Here we go.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to belabor the other things that were already mentioned because they stole a few of the things that I already had in my pocket. But one thing I've noticed, especially when you're doing it with the constant, do you know, did you know, do you know, did you know? I will say I would avoid calling out specific members of your audience because it comes off a little confrontational, which can be kind of disparaging again to the audience. The other thing I noticed is with your hands, you have a tendency to do this. And I don't know if you guys can hear me online, but you have a tendency to hold your hands right here at your abdomen. I would say relax the hands down and only move when it's intentional and have those intentional movements. This gives, and you do this moment where you play with your thumbs while you're doing it. And that does give a sense of nervousness. So if you put your hands down and kind of let yourself relax into that speech, you're going to give a more confident presence. And that will help feed into that. I know cars because I am confident in my knowledge. And here's why, as you explain that introduction that Richard so wonderfully said. The other thing I have noticed in this particular venue is if you stand in the center here, the lighting is kind of terrible. So I recommend kind of working the room a little bit. You made really great eye contact with everyone, but a couple of times you lost your light as far as where we could really see you. And I know that reads online in a way where you almost kind of have like a dark shadow over your face. So just be mindful of the lighting in here. And those would be the big key points that I would point out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I have some hands online. David, tell me who to. Oh, I see there. I see April. April, I see a hand there, and I see Ralph. Let's go to April, and then Ralph, and then Horace. Okay, April.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I really enjoyed that.
Nice and loud. Nice and loud.
Established. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I was going to say, I enjoyed the fact that you talked about your father and the nostalgia of how you got your expertise. I would love to hear a little bit more about that. That can engage the audience. You're talking about the cars. Talk about your dad. What was it like? How did you get that in-depth story? And that could really bring people in, especially cross-generationally and cross-culturally. So I think there's room to expand there. Another opportunity I believe you have is to teach us something. Do you know your car? Maybe you don't, but by the end of this presentation, you will know your car. One of the pieces of information my uncle always shares is he loves to go to a junkyard, go in the glove compartment, and there's always a brand new book, the manual to the car. Nobody ever looks there. You shared that with your audience. You can show them how can we know more about our cars. Wherever we are, wherever dealership they go to, they can go in there, get that manual, and learn something about their car. So now we feel encouraged when we leave. I have an action item. Here's how I'm going to know something about my car when I leave. And I think we can feel more encouraged and inclusive with that. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
Okay. All right. Thank you, April. Now, I think I said Ralph was next. After that, we'll follow with Horace. I think someone had said he had a hand up, right? So, Ralph?
Yes. Good evening there, Speakers Bureau and fellow Toastmasters. It's ironic that Kevin brought up cars because I'm a Subaru man myself, and my wife Lois and I had a real bad back and forth. And it was so bad it helped me win a district humorous speech contest in 2013, as a matter of fact. But this is not about me. I had some of the same thoughts that some of the real pros like Richard and others had. But I just have a couple of quick observations. For instance, don't interlace your fingers when you make hand gestures, Kevin. Use your hands, palms up, and use them to emphasize the particular part of your speech that you wish to emphasize. But interlacing your fingers makes us think in the audience that you're nervous, and it really doesn't emphasize anything in your speech. Also, I really liked how you try to incorporate the audience in your speech, but make sure that when you try to do that, that your audience really wants to participate. Because then you'll just be saying, is there anyone who likes this or anyone that likes that? And nobody answers. It's not an effective audience participation technique, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Good point, Ralph. One of the things that we usually suggest to someone is going to ask questions of the audience is, rather than having that time where there's nothing going on, you may make sure there's someone that will have at least one question, so that you and plan that ahead of time, even maybe what the question is, so that you're all prepared to give a really great answer to that one question. Okay, Horace?
Thank you. Thank you for picking a topic that is of interest to just about everyone. And that was a good choice, because we all are involved one way or the other to one extent or another with the transportation involving cars. Now, I had a little bit of a problem trying to figure out your organization of your topic. I wasn't quite sure where you were going and when. I don't know if perhaps something after your introduction or just at the end of your introduction, something to the equivalent of a thesis statement might be helpful, because I had trouble following your line of reasoning. And one of the basic premises of your speech today was that the aesthetics and the mechanicals divide people into how they appreciate cars, and that you happen to be different because you look at the mechanicals more than the aesthetics. But I think that's an artificial dichotomy because the aesthetics of a car are an important aspect of the performance of that car because aerodynamics is a big factor, and that helps to influence the performance of a car. So somehow the basic premise of those two things being almost mutually exclusive doesn't seem to have much validity, or at least you need to make a better case for that. On the whole, I think you have stimulated our interest, and I hope you will really do a second take on this and expand it and perhaps clarify your organizational structure as you make your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I have to out Horace because you didn't even bother to tell him you were the president of a Rolls-Royce Association, and so you are a car guy. So you didn't expect to be probably made suggestions from a real car guy there in the audience. Okay, anybody else? Do we have any other hands up? Did I see one? Oh, okay, I see Paul. Paul's not a QS yet, but I'll let you get a word in here. We probably spent enough time on this, but I don't see Musa yet either. So go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Tom. I'll add on. Horace, you almost took one of the things I was going to say, but Kevin, the point I will make to you is almost what I didn't hear in the speech. When you gave your introduction, I thought you were going to get into a speech that was about comparing aesthetics to performance or to what do the bones of something mean, whether it's a Toastmasters team, a classroom, or else. I thought you opened yourself really up to that, and I'm surprised, given how I heard your speeches at Missy Edwards Club, that you didn't. So for me, that was the big surprise of this speech, is what was left out of it. And I'll send you some feedback separately, but I'll leave the comment at that because many other people have covered my other comments to you. Back to you, Tom.
Okay, I think let's see. Do we have Musa yet? If we do not, then we will go to Forrest next.
Musa's here.
Oh, Musa's here?
Yes.
Okay, I see him there. Okay, well, give me a couple. You get ready, Musa, and we'll be ready to introduce you really quickly. Just have to close out this evaluation portion because I am a car guy, Kevin. If I could, I'd still be getting Motor Trend magazine for the last 70 years. So I'm at Road and Track and all those things. I've had classic cars, and I right now in the midst of spending, I hate to even say how much to restore my 1961 Corvette that I bought new. So I do, there's that one aspect, but I also drive a Tesla. So you really dug yourself a deep hole with the MC. Actually, it's my second Tesla. So, but anyway, but what I would suggest is you really want to leave your audience liking you. And it was a little bit, as mentioned, a little bit confrontational. And so you might do something like, do you have more pictures because people like looking at all the different cars and so on, just like they enjoyed looking at that one the classic car that was up there. Do you like a car because it's really efficient? It's like it's that going to get you 100 miles to the gallon. You could exaggerate. 100, and and you can brag about how long it lasted and so on and everything else. Or do you buy a car because people will be impressed when they see you drive into the parking lot? We got that Rolls Royce, and wow, look at that. Or do you drive a car because you don't have to steer it because you got a Tesla with self-driving? And try to make each of the categories of people that, for the reason that, because cars are sometimes special people, sometimes they're not, but for a lot of people it is special, whatever it is their choice is, whether it's a classic car or whatever it is. And so you make each of them okay, and you finally come to the point where, well, I view cars differently. I look at it because it's got to have long lasting, or it's going to be whatever it is. So you're one of the categories of the people that are okay to have those opinions. And so that would be good. But as I said, your stage presence, I didn't sense any nervousness. I thought could be a scary crowd. So I didn't sense any nervousness. That was a good sign. And the other aspect is your youth. Okay, you're going to come in with wisdom. You might give them some wisdom that they how is the best way to buy a used car? My personal opinion is CarMax for a used car, but because there's no arguing about the price. But you have trouble going into a dealership picking, so you got a door to open. You have trouble going into the dealership because they're going to send the manager and the third manager and all these things. So give them some hints that they can take away with them to help them be more functional, to get their choice, whatever their choice is. Anyway, congratulations on being on stage, and you got a professional set of evaluations here. I have said that over and over. We may not be the best speakers in the Speakers Bureau. I believe we are the best evaluators. So
Thank you so much, everybody.
okay. All right. Good job. All right, let me get my introduction out here. It should be handy. There we go.
Can you hear me first?
All right, we're going to be ready to go.
Can you guys hear me first?
Yes. I will do your introduction as soon as I pick it up here. So, what did I do? Not there. Okay. I am definitely looking forward to this next presentation. And I don't see any palm trees or pineapples in your background, Musa. But anyway, I believe you that you're in Hawaii. I believe it. I appreciate your making that effort to be here and do this. And so we are looking forward to your presentation. Our next speaker reminds us of something we often overlook: the quiet role of a father. A father's work is not always seen. It happens in long days, silent sacrifices, and steady support. He carries responsibility while still trying to be present for the moments that matter. Today's speaker brings us a message that is both personal and powerful, a reflection on time, connection, and the conversations we sometimes delay. In his speech, Father's Time, he invites us to look beyond the clock and into the moments that truly define our lives. And please welcome Musa Khair.
Can you hear me first? I want to make sure. Everybody, all right. Some years ago, my son said something to me that stayed in my heart. He said, "Dad, you didn't spend enough time with us when we were kids." Now, when a child says something like that, you don't answer right away. Of course, you don't argue. You don't defend yourself. You ask yourself, what happened? Did I miss something? Fellow Toastmasters and business speaker bureaus, what is time? Is that the hours we sit together, or the sacrifice we never see? Because sometimes love does not look time. Sometimes love looks absence. Many questions comes to my mind. Was I absent, nowhere to be found? Was I missing? I know I was working, but did not spend my weekends or spare time with my kids. What happened? I know I work hard. I was in the common rat race. Sometimes I was tired and sometimes I was asleep. And sometimes I think about work after coming home also. My wife used to say, "Today you landed, but never arrived yet." That's when I start thinking work. That took some times from my kids. In my youth, I promised that my kids will not face the same thing I faced. There was a time in my life when I didn't even know if I would have a life or a future. I was not thinking about weekends. I was not thinking about family reunions. I'm not talking dinners. I was not talking about vacation. I was talking about survival. When the military government overthrew the king in 1974 in Ethiopia, everything changed. At first, it seemed small. Students were asked to serve 1 year community service. We accepted. Then the government asked for a second year. And that went crazy because the students protested, voices were raised, stone was thrown. At first, the message was simple. We do not want another year. No problem. But something shifted. The voices grew stronger. The message became, we want a civilian government. And that was too much for the military junta. And the government responded with fear. He was taking students every week. Many were shot in their neighborhood. I saw friends fall. I was scared. Family told me, you have to leave. There was no time to think, only to survive. At 16-year-old, I walked for 12 days to Sudan. At 16, I became a refugee. Every day I wondered, will I be eating today or will I survive tomorrow? I was alone, no family, no support. But that struggle made me a promise. And I said, I remember, my future children will never live like this. This life was terrible. Then one day I asked asylum to come to the US. And I got a chance. I came to a new country with dreams in one hand and uncertainty on the other. But life changed. Got married, have 3 wonderful kids. I always remember my promise, and I even renew it. My children will have a better life than I did. I was in the system, like you guys know, the rat race, work, like any other father. Of course, it's not that I like to work, but I was building something the family could stand on. But I realized the concept of time is different for everyone. One evening, I came home late. I was in a long day. It was Tuesday, I remember. When I opened the door, my son was standing there. He looked at me and he said, Dad, are you working again tomorrow? Tuesday is a day. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Wednesday is a work day. But he didn't see it. And I have to say, yes. I didn't say anything else. He nodded and he went to his room. I have to go back and talk to him later on. But that was Tuesday, and Wednesday is a work day. That's a weekday. I have to work. So the concept of vacation time or something might not have been with him. My children saw a father who was busy, maybe, but they didn't see the night I stayed awake worrying. They didn't see the fear of losing everything. They didn't see the promise I made to myself. My children will have a better life than I did. But my son, I cannot say he's wrong. As a human, I have shortcomings. Maybe I could have spent more time with him, but also at the same time, on the other hand, my daughter, his younger sister, she's funny. She always remember everything. Remember, one time she said, Dad, you remember when my ice cream fell from my cone and I wanted to pick it up, but you said, no, don't pick it up. I'll buy you another one. That was in Disneyland. And actually, at that time, I said, I don't remember, but the son was with us. The son was with us. She remembers everything, and my son could not. And that little bothers me. He was with us. Time for him is the counting of hours, I think. I remember when we were in line in Disneyland. I remember that. That was a long line. I hated it. And that summer, the sun was 2 feet away from my bald head. Oh, that was not even a good day. It was too hot. I remember taking them out of line, saying, guys, the line is too long. Let me buy you ice cream. And that's actually another reason to cool my bald, hot head. She remembered that. She remembered each state we went. She could say Phoenix, Arizona, Miami, Florida, and Washington, D.C. She knows every detail. She even remembered every ride she rode. Disneyland, Universal Studios, Santa Cruz Beach Walk. My son remembered, but currently missing time is what it counts for him, maybe, not the memory. What does that mean? Did I not spend enough time? When I also remember my wallet size going smaller every time I go with him. I remember the fun and the family time. I like my daughter. My daughter is my best witness. I'm not saying I did a good job, but I remember. A father's love is not measured, in my opinion, in the hours we spent, but in everything we gave up. The family ties created, the security we built, so our children could have more than we did. I promised before, I promise even now that my kids should have better life than what I did. When you ask yourself, what does that mean? I did not spend enough time. I'm not defending myself. At that moment, I felt something heavy in my heart. I felt I did not deliver my promise. I also know children do not measure sacrifice. They measure presence. Was I missing for him? Because of him, it was just another day. I was not there. Maybe. Talking about not there, let me give you another. My friend James was almost in tears when I called him during COVID, I remember. He told me his 74-year-old dad is in the hospital with COVID. They isolated him in a separate room, and no family can come close to him. He knows his dad will worry. And also the dad, as a 74-year-old, didn't know why he was quarantined at the hospital. James has to write a big font letter to display to his dad behind the glass window. He told me that is his worst day, that he cannot be close to his dad, cannot hold his hand, cannot sit beside him when he needs him. I felt totally bad for the situation and prayed his safe return. I felt totally how the family will react if the situation is worse. I went with him to the hospital, all of us masked from the outside window, showing him a letter so he could read. The letter says, "Dear Dad, you are sick. The tubes is helping you to breathe. The virus is contagious." We are showing him through the window. And that's why we cannot visit you. We love you and think of you. It hurt us not to be with you. But be strong. Mom is okay. We love you, Dad. I remember that day vividly. I remember that family all weeping. That reflection told me that there are worse moments that are unbearable, worse moments that are impossible to fix, worse moments that, like my teen age, escaping from a country to another country to become a refugee. I thank my life of my children. I thank for being healthy. And I'm worried about not giving my kids enough moment at this moment when someone is worried about his dad being dead. James' dad make it. He was released after 2 weeks. We were happy to see him. That was a devastating moment for all. The fear of losing him was revolving in their head every day for 15 days. I remember that day. The writing of the note to your loved ones, who you feel are close, and they deserve your hug, but you cannot do it. It turns to a letter only, writing to display behind a window. That hurts. That hurts a lot. Let me be honest. James' family were faced with pandemic. He was not busy. He wanted to be on his father's side. This is a catastrophic moment. Yes, it's a missed moment, but catastrophic. And many of you will agree with me. Spending memorable time with our kids is very important. Spending memorable time with our parent is very important. So when my son says, "Dad, you didn't spend enough time with us," I don't just hear a complaint. I hear something else. I hear a child who never had to live the life I escaped. I hear who had to see, God forbid, not a sick father. Children are busy when they look for fun. Children see busy fathers, but fathers were building a future for them. Children see absence. Fathers see protection. Children see time missing. Fathers see time invested. Do fathers who don't care take their children to Disneyland? No, we do care. We traveled, we laughed. But for my son, his concept and understanding differ from his sister. But also the main thing, yes, I was busy. I was in the rat race. I have to make some living. Because children don't measure sacrifice, they measure presence. My son is 34 now. The other day I met him and I asked him, just to poke him, did you remember you said this? He told me, Dad, I'm sorry. I know you were trying to put food on the table. You did not have anyone to help you when you were a refugee. You were lonely in a dark night crossing a desert. You came here. I would help you every day as much as I am with you. He asked me for a coffee, and I said, all right, a coffee, let's go. I got you, old man. He said, I got you, Dad. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Musa. I was remiss in your introduction because I forgot to say that your coach, who normally does the introduction, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Who normally does the introduction is Daryl Zeller. As much as I would prefer to be able to say it was me, we're in the same club together, and I'm going to comment some more later, but it's the best speech I've ever heard. And especially as someone who really believes in fatherhood, it's an important task. But let's hear some comments from our QSs both. I started with the people in the room. Let's start with the people online this time. So let me see if I see a hand. I see, Ralph, your hand is a new hand up there, not an old hand. Just right now? Okay, Ralph, let's hear it from you if you have a comment now.
I do, Mr. Toastmaster. I would say for Musa, try to have a neutral background. The devices that I see in your background are distracting. And I even saw someone's reflection walking in the background. And I know it's hard to deliver a QS speech from Zoom. That's why my coach advised me when I was going for my QS to give it in person. But I understand that that was impossible for you. But on the other hand, for a QS qualification speech, you don't want to see someone walking in the background in a reflection. Also, it would be nice if you do have to do it with Zoom, that you try to arrange your camera angle in such a way that you can stand. And then we can see your nonverbal communication better. I saw some hand gestures, a couple of them that were very good. I would have liked to see more. I think that would have really helped your speaking. And Mr. Toastmaster, that concludes what I would like to say about Musa's speech.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ralph. Another thing I was going to say, I made that announcement, but I always encourage people to speak in person if possible. And in looking at the results afterwards, it seems like the online voters are much more severe critics than the people in person. There's something about that personal touch that people can do. So that's just something we realize we have to deal with. And I see Melinda. Melinda has a hand up. So let's go with Melinda next.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Musa, thank you for coming, for showing up, number one, Number two, for being online, I can identify with that personally. But number three, which is the biggest, thank you for sharing your personal story. That was a wonderful life lesson, a wonderful challenge embracing fatherhood. I can understand and identify with your story because as a single mom raising my two daughters, I had my challenges with a similar issue when you're the breadwinner of the household. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the personal examples and the application, how it falls into the overall picture. You took us on a journey. You gave us examples. You expressed yourself. Your verbal voice was of good tone. Thank you for sharing. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Belinda. Let me see if I see any more hands from the online participants. And let me get over here and see if I see a hand. Right off the top of my head, I do not. So I will come back in case anybody else is later. Now, anybody in the audience have any comments that they'd like to make? Jeremiah, okay.
I guess let's roll. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Musa, for sharing today. Sorry, Tom started walking away and almost drug me across the room. Musa, obviously you're going for your QS, so I'm going to be a little bit more probably direct than I probably would in a club. This was a fantastic club speech. In a club speech, if we were in a club setting, I mean, this was absolutely connecting. We knew you, we felt you, we heard you. I don't know if this was a speech that I think really was developed in a way that you could be able to take this same kind of format and move outside of the club. And I think that's part of this program and part of the process of this program. I loved how Ralph talked about you were, about standing and everything because you were sitting and you were rocking in your chair back and forth a little bit. You also were looking down, and I think you had some notes on your left-hand side, and I think you kept on referring back to those as you were going through, and you would also look down during your transitions. So we would lose that kind of just direct eye contact. I liked your opening. I liked the pauses, the personal stories, but I would have loved to have seen maybe that audience interaction of drawing the audience into your speech and getting them to buy in more with their self-reflections of opportunities and times. You had a great tone and voice, but overall, it was a very personal, touching speech. It makes, I think, just the reflection portion was great. But I would love to really see you take this same kind of speech and find a way that maybe add some points in that people could walk away with and grow with, and be able to utilize this to be able to kind of help parlay this into maybe outside of just a club. But overall, thank you very much for sharing. And I think Horace was drinking a beer. And Horace, you're making me jealous being here if you're drinking a beer during the thing. So you're my man, Horace.
You're not supposed to make being at home an advantage. We're supposed to try to encourage people to show up.
You know why I insist on following Jeremiah when he's good. My comment, and he said something that I wasn't going to speak, but since he said it, I'm going to echo it. In a qualified speaker position, I think it's more than a club speech. It's something that you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice. And I think repetitives is not something the audience wants to hear. So when you say your daughter remembers all, she remembers every detail, that is something to be said once. But when you say the second time or the third time, my daughter remembers every little detail, that tells me that somehow in the constriction of a 7-minute speech for a national contest or international contest, you're talking about 7 minutes and 30 seconds and not 31 seconds. So every phrase has to be accounted for. Everything has to be said once, maybe, or bring a point. So I just decided to speak because it is a wonderful speech. You touch me. Every parent felt you. I think every parent in the room felt you. And it's very emotional. But if you can pat it down and think international audience, 7.5 minutes, not 31 seconds, And this is where repetitive now. I just said this so you can see how annoying repetitive sounds.
Thank you. Connie, you have something? I'll get back to you. I'll twist your arm again.
Musa, I enjoyed the speech. I do think it was certainly a topic you can work with, and many audiences will appreciate it because we all are either parents or have had parents. I think you might touch bases with the audience a little bit more. How many of you had an absentee father or mother? How did you ease the pain? I thought you had some good phrases. You talked about a better life for your children. When your son asked you about spending more time, maybe you might have come back with, do you enjoy having a roof over your head? Do you enjoy living in a nice home? Do you enjoy taking vacations? I heard that a little bit from your daughter, some of the vacations you've had, toys. So there's all kinds of things. And yes, I do need to work. And I certainly related to it. I had an absentee father. It was hard. It was difficult. And I would echo standing up and also dressing the part, very important. It's also a little bit, especially online, was a little bit difficult to follow you, especially the part about the sick father with COVID. I'm not sure that related to the rest of the speech, but good luck. I enjoyed your speech.
All right, thank you. Well, Richard and I usually get along, but I want to disagree a little bit about reminding the kids that they like to have a roof over their head. I think that's to be expected, but I do really the story that you talked about coming from having to escape at 16 to me was the point that really climbed into me. And I there's a concept that I've been saying for years that I disagree with, that when you tell your kids, I want them to have it better than I had it, my response after 50 years of thinking about that topic, because that's kind of a normal thing for parents to say, is that, did you think you turned out okay? And you had to deal with those things. And so maybe things are okay now because you learned to overcome those things. But I have to take it back in your particular situation, because I think that story made me think so much of, there must be some 16-year-old in Iran right now trying to redo that same experience and escape that terrible environment and with his life. And so that was particularly moving to me. And I really am a strong believer in the importance of fathers in this country. I think that's one we've lost a lot. So thank you. Thank you so much, Musa, for that. And I look forward to, I wouldn't mind sending, I think there'd be plenty of clubs that would like to hear you speak around Father's Day. What a good story to share. Okay, I think we are ready. I didn't skip somebody, did I? Okay. Oh, Esther. Yes, go ahead, Esther.
Thank you, Tom. And hello, Musa. Well, I heard your story on the absent father, but I'm going to approach it from an immigrant point of view, because I had you differently. How we raise our kids here, it's very much different than how we grew up. Therefore, this speech to me qualifies as an international speech, not as a speech at a lab. It could go outside that lab and you could be on that stage for an international speech. That's what I heard. So I want to encourage you to keep this message going. And when you finish your district leadership and take this message on stage, to be an international speech, because you may see an absent father. Today, your title is that, but how you were raised, all the things that you mentioned, comparing the two, our thinking is different. We try to provide our kids everything, but from how you grew up, it's totally, because your kids might be associating with other kids who are doing things differently from their homes. They grew up here. So to them, that presence means something versus you trying to make a living. So well done, sir. I really enjoyed that speech and looking forward to more.
Okay, thank you, Esther. Now I want to make sure I didn't forget somebody else. So let me see the participants here one more time, make sure I didn't miss a hand out there. Anybody see one that I didn't see? Okay, I do not see anything else. All right, so you can submit your votes to Michael, and we will spend some time. Richard's going to be introducing our next speaker, but Forrest, you've got to move something around, so go ahead and do that, right? And I will pass the baton over here to your coach, and I will during this I'll be interviewed here. I will be collecting some ballots.
And I don't know if this mic is on. If not, I'll use this. Okay. You ready? It's easy to believe that close enough can do it for us. Forrest once believed in that. In 2017, Forrest witnessed a natural phenomenon at 99% that made him realize we must commit 100% in important moments. In the first part, Forrest will take us through his 7-year journey of redeeming the last 1% to secure the payoff of a lifetime. Please be advised that this part will use a slide deck. Online viewers are advised to adjust accordingly. In part 2, he will identify why the final 1% is important. I promise you it's not what you expect. He will support the final 1% with 2 supporting examples in sports and technology. Finally, Forrest will conclude with 3 keys to help identify what's important, feel the difference, and ensure we always take it to the finish line. Before he begins, Forrest has a little surprise to share at the beginning. Speaking on 7 years to the last 1%, please help me welcome Forrest Baird.
All right.
How many of you have seen something unfold? It unfolds beautifully, but for some reason, it doesn't close. Has anybody experienced that? Has anybody felt that? If you haven't, you have now. For those online, I know that the trumpet may not have come through. What I played was When the Saints Go Marching In, but I played everything except for the last note to keep you in suspense. Fellow Toastmasters, our QS is here, our QSs and fellow guests online, and Mr. Chair. I'm going to walk you through today an epic journey where I finally realized that the last 1% matters more than anything else. We're going to start this old school. We're going to start with my roadmap. We'll start with my story of how I spent the last 7 years chasing a solar eclipse to see if I could finally get that last 1%. In the second part of my QS audition speech, I'll also speak about 2 distinct examples in sports and technology and weave them together to show that the last 1% even applies there. And finally, I'll give you 3 distinct keys that will help you figure out where you are right now, differentiate 99 and 100%, and take it to the finish line so that you can sleep soundly at night. We're going to begin our journey, which will be more online. For those joining us online, please feel free to adjust your screens as you see fit to ensure that you can join me in the entire journey. And for those here, there may be a little bit of latency as well. So I ask you, please be patient with the slide deck changing. Let's begin our journey. There were 2 eclipses this past decade. One going from the beautiful Pacific Northwest, where I lived, down to South Carolina. And the second one would happen 7 years later, starting in Mexico, going through the eastern United States, and finally through Canada. We are first going to take a visit to Portland back in 2017 when I first moved there to see how I was going to be able to view this eclipse. You'll see shortly that where I relocated was north of Portland, Oregon, in the city of Vancouver. I normally don't tell people I moved here from Vancouver because they think I'm Canadian. However, there is one huge advantage to living in Vancouver. If I work in Vancouver, in Washington, I don't have to pay income tax. And then if I go to Oregon and go shopping, I don't have to pay sales tax. As you can see, I have very expensive instruments. I don't like paying sales tax. But you might be asking, well, why did you move here to California? Now you're paying for both in spades, plus $7 gas. Life is a journey. But on this journey back in the Pacific Northwest, I was able to see the eclipse at 99%. I'm going to show you a couple pictures of what this looked like. You can see these 3 pictures right here. On the far left was the eclipse at 99%. In the middle, you can see crescents. And finally on the right, more crescents on the ground. I realize it might be a little bit hard to see, so let's zoom in just a little bit more. On the left, you can see those crescent shadows on the ground, and the same against the shed as well. But as everything was coming together, I was anticipating, is something cool going to happen? It did get cool, by the way. It dropped 10 degrees, but it only got to a certain point at 99%. I thought this was still a good experience. This is the first eclipse I've ever seen at 99%, where you can barely see the house below my glasses. I posted my picture online, got a few likes on Facebook and on Instagram, but then I saw pictures at 100%, and my jaw dropped. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, that's what the last 1% looks like? And that taught me a valuable lesson. And this lesson was taught by Mother Nature herself. Good enough isn't enough anymore. You must see the eclipse at 100%. I vowed from that point forward, whenever the next eclipse was, I was going to make sure that I saw it. Luckily, here in the continental United States, we had another eclipse 7 years later. It was going from Mexico up through the eastern United States and into Canada. And it was also in April, in the springtime. But what caught my attention was not the timing of this eclipse. It was the location. I grew up in Northwest Pennsylvania. It is a beautiful area, very green, nature-esque, serene, and my parents lived there. So what could I do? I could naturally join them. We could have a family reunion to watch this solar eclipse. But here's the beautiful part. I could see this from my backyard. Tell me, what's the coolest thing you've seen in your backyard? You're about to see what I saw. Luckily, I was going to see 100% eclipse, but there was one problem. Is anybody here from the East Coast near the Great Lakes? Got quite a few. So you know what the weather is like. It could be sunny one moment, cloudy another, torrential downpour, a tornado warning, or you could be under 4 feet of snow, all before the sun sets that day. I knew I had to roll the dice though, because at the end of the day, if I didn't see it now, the next one in the United States would be 20 years down the road. We had to make this happen. As I approached Pennsylvania, I spent my Friday getting in, Saturday, exploring the town. Sunday, checking the view to make sure I could see the solar eclipse in the rightful spot at 3:18 or 3:17. And then Monday was game time. But this is what I woke up to. I slept in a little bit late, and at 11 a.m., it was already hazy outside. My parents told me it's foggy and it's not going to get any better. But what did I say about Mother Nature in the Great Lakes? It's unpredictable, and it could be unpredictable for better or for worse. And in my case, 2 hours before, it got a little bit better. The skies were clearing up. You could see the sun at the very top. And I had my 2 cameras ready, one to capture the phases of the eclipse, and then one to capture it in its totality. I was optimistic. My dad and my best friend Jeff, not so much. They were the pessimists. They're the ones who kept me well grounded, saying anything can change at any moment. And what do you think happened 1 hour later? Anybody want to take any guesses?
Well,
That's because you saw the speech. No cheating, please. It got hazy. Mother Nature decided to blow some smoke my way, and you could see the haze there over the sun. But this was a very interesting opportunity, not one that I had anticipated. You could see part of the moon eclipsing the sun with your bare eyes. And I do not recommend that, by the way. Never do that if you're in a clear skies area. Don't look at an eclipse with your bare eyes. You will damage your retina. But we had enough haze that I could see it. And as the clouds were rolling in, about 15 minutes before, we had full coverage. My best friend said, let's call it quits. And my dad, who was ailing and on his last leg, wanted to conserve his energy. So he went back inside and he decided that he was going to wait until a couple minutes before. But what do you think happened 3 minutes before the eclipse? A Moses moment where the clouds parted. It's as if we were being smiled upon. And I called my old man. Hey, Dad, can you get out here? Come check this out. Is it ready, son? Yeah, come on out. And so with his cane, he walked out with all of his strength. And I remember it took a lot out of him that day. And right on cue at 3:17 p.m., lo and behold, we have a beautiful solar eclipse. And you could see how starkly different it is from the 99%. A blackened moon with a white dancing aura all around. People and animals howling alike, not knowing what's going on. A beautiful sunset in every direction, very similar to a Star Wars moment. This was the last 1% I was waiting for, and I felt that I clinched it. It felt amazing. And it may feel like a lot just from looking at the pictures, but let me tell you, when I spent 7 years planning to make sure that I could get off work, do whatever it takes to see the solar eclipse, this was redemption. It was full-on redemption. And I was very proud of the moment that I was able to capture. At the very end, I got a selfie with my best friend, my wife in the back, and myself. My mom and dad were unfortunately too tired to stay for that moment. But I figured it was a great way to celebrate. But don't let Jeff's smile fool you. He was very pessimistic up until 3 minutes before. And I remember after he took that selfie, I had some choice words for him. Normally, I don't turn my back to the audience, but I need to get out this aggression. Yeah! In your face! Oh, that felt good. I had to rub it in his face because he said the probability wasn't there, but I said the possibility was there, and the possibility won that day. The only thing that could have made that picture better is if my old man and my mom were in that picture as well. Shortly after, about 4 months later, my dad passed away. And 8 months later, my mom would join him as well. But let me tell you something. If there was any way to spend a final family get-together, this was the most epic way of doing it. Watching a beautiful solar eclipse from my backyard. What do you think the core difference is between the last 1%? I can tell you, it is not something that you can measure. It is something that you feel. You feel this because you know that when something beautiful is happening, you want to see it through to the very end. And I know that we have had a lot of situations that we've seen either third person or first person in which that happened. We're going to transition now and go a little bit more old school with the flip chart. And I prepared a couple examples, and I want to encourage you to participate. This includes you online as well. Go ahead and throw it in the chat. The first example is Super Bowl 42. Who remembers when the Patriots took on the Giants? And what happened? Just shout it out.
England won. New York won.
New York won. New York absolutely won.
Helmet catch.
The helmet catch. My goodness. Anybody remember that? How many seconds were on the clock when that happened? Do you remember?
I want to say 7, 8, something like that. How many?
36 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And this was their final statistic, 18-1. 18 wins, 1 loss. And which game did they lose? The one that counted. The one that would take them all the way so they could replicate the Miami Dolphins. They didn't make it. You could argue statistically that they were winning 99% of their career, probably even more than that. But the last 1% was where they fumbled, and it was the one that counted. And it was where they would be remembered as the football team that almost had a perfect record, but lost it with 32 seconds left in the final quarter. However, you can give the Patriots some credit. They actually learned from this, and they turned it on the Falcons several years later.
Yeah.
But let's get to a more serious example. The 1999 Mars Climate Orbiter. Who remembers this? What happened in 1999 when NASA sent an orbiter to Mars? Kaboom! It crashed. And why did that happen? Who miscalculated?
NASA, I forget who it was, but somebody miscalculated inches on it. It was a millimeter.
It was Lockheed Martin who miscalculated. NASA hired a contractor to get the units right, to do all the calculations. And Lockheed Martin did a good job for just about everything, except for one small little detail that wrecked them. They forgot to convert the units. You may not know what I mean by units, but let me ask you something. Is a foot the same as a meter? Is an hour the same as a second? When you use the wrong metrics, you can derail everything, no matter how small it is. And this is a prime example of what can happen when you make a small little error. It can derail the entire experience. And let me tell you, those NASA scientists, not only did they see it, not only did they observe it, they also felt it because they almost got it to the finish line. And it simply did not happen. All right, folks, now we're going to get into the 3 keys to help you cross to the finish line. Those 3 keys are going to be an important step that appears simple, but at the same time are important. Let's start with key number 1. Key number 1 is to identify what's important. What was the first thing you saw on this thing as I ripped it off? A red balloon. And why was that? It's because it's different. Remember, what's important is a priority. You cannot spell priority without prior. You cannot spell priority without prior. And what does prior mean? Something must come before and be important. Something has to be addressed first. When we figure out what needs to be taken from 99 to 100%, the newsflash here is that not everything can be taken that way. You have to identify what's important and take the important things from 99 to 100%. That includes finishing the Super Bowl. That includes seeing that solar eclipse, and it most certainly includes getting those calculations right. Otherwise, you will see a crash at the end. After you identify what's important, the second key is to differentiate the 99 versus 100%. And remember, it's not something you can measure. It is something you can feel. And you can use your senses. What does it look like? What does 99% look like? What does 100% look like? For me in the eclipse, a 99% eclipse looked like a mostly covered sun, but there was no aura. There was no sunsets in every direction. 100%, that brought everything together. That's what it looked like. What did it feel like? Well, that is something more internal to you. You'll figure that out for yourself. And what did it sound like? Remember when I said there were howls at 100%? Did not hear that 99%. I heard birds chirping, but it wasn't really anything noteworthy. So use your senses to differentiate the 99% versus 100%. And once you differentiate the two, what do you think you need to do next? You must take it to the finish line. And a lot of people forget this. I work with business owners and students, and you would think they have nothing in common, but I would argue differently. Students are looking to get a grade. Business owners, more money, but they both have to put in the work. And you'd be surprised when I work with both how much I have to herd them and say, you need to get through the finish line and you need to get that 100%. And I had a student once tell me, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to coast and I'm going to have it taken care of. I don't need the additional push. Well, I have a video that might suggest otherwise, why you need to push it all the way to 100% that I'm going to go ahead and share with the audience. I recently watched a marathon in Delaware, the 2026 Delaware Marathon, where one runner was way far ahead and another was speeding to catch up. And guess what happens next? Let's watch. It might be a little bit laggy for those in the audience, but we'll address them with some screenshots. The video was a little laggy, but luckily we have some screenshots to refer to. On the left-hand side, you see the second runner. Might be a little hazy as well. And the first place runner was celebrating, saying, I got this. But then what happens on the end on the right-hand side? The second place runner gets first place at the very end. He eclipsed the original first place runner. And the person who was leading for 99% and beyond had to settle for second place. I've seen a lot of business owners who think that they can just coast and make it their own way. And I got to tell you, it really irritates me when I see these business owners thinking that they can just get so close to the sale, but then they don't have to do anything. They get somebody's attention, they have meeting after meeting with them, and then what happens? They get spooked. And I don't know why. It's as if they're afraid to finish things. And I pondered about this for a little bit. And what I recognized is that some people are afraid of success. And it's a natural reality. Some people are, in fact, afraid of success. But why? What's the underlying reason? It's because every change involves pain. All changes involve pain. Some may be lesser pain, some may be greater pain, but pain is involved. And that's why I see these business owners and students alike not take it to the finish line, because they want to keep the set of problems that they have, but not trade them for better problems that will help them grow and develop. Don't be like these people. Take it to the finish line. Otherwise, you might get eclipsed. Let's review those three keys real quick before we land the plane. You'll notice it's similar to a red light, yellow light, green light system. In the first part, we're going to identify what's important. What are your red balloons? Second, differentiate the difference between 99 and 100%. Remember, it is felt. And finally, take it to the finish line. Because if you don't finish what you start, that will be replaced, most likely, with regrets. As I close out, I have some unfinished business that I would like to address. Remember that song I played in the beginning? I think it's time that we finish it. Take it to the finish line. No matter what you start, for things that are important, take it all the way. It's not the Saints go marching in anymore. It's the Saints go marching into the finish line. And that's the way you want to treat what you value as important. So think about those things that we've talked about, whether if it's a solar eclipse, a science project, your personal business, or perhaps a relationship that you have. What is the final 1% that you need to close and close that gap? Because at the end of the day, we don't know how life is going to progress for all of us. But I can tell you something. If you control that last 1% that's within your control, you're going to sleep better at night. So close that 1%. Sleep better so that you can hand that baton to your future self and they can pursue things that can go beyond where you currently are today. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Forrest. And it's feedback time. I'll take, okay, Hilda. She's good. She wants to be first this time.
He's so good. He says everything I think. Great speech. Great speech. I like to think that there's a 7.5 minute thing where you grab the audience and, I know there's something, there's speeches that are memorable and they're international contest winners and we all repeat them, I see something in you. And that was said in 7.5 minutes. And the next one, so if you could bring this down to 7.5 minutes, you got me at hello. You got me with your eclipse. You got me with that 1%. The moment that I saw that eclipse at 100%, close the store because you got me. You got everybody here. It was about that 1%, that the 99 before and the 1%. Close the shop. It's a different speech. Now you're talking about motivation and your 1%, but that was so powerful. I would watch international speech contests, as many as you can, watch every year's winners and see how in 7.5 minutes they can do magic. Sure. And keep it to 7.5 minutes. And if you can do this in 7.5 minutes, you're a winner.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Hilda. And just as a reminder, QS speeches need to be around 20 minutes. So, but thank you for the feedback.
Still not do 7.5.
And Sarah.
I'm gonna argue with Hilda today. Do it. All right. Yes, for an international speech, this would be a great way you could condense that down. However, what I saw here was potential for a corporate speech. And I think that's the direction you're going in, is getting outside of Toastmasters and into kind of corporate America, doing motivational speaking. Awesome. And that's very exciting. I love what you did here. So you have a great opening. May not go over well in corporate America, depending on, I would get the read on what corporation you're going to, if you're going into that realm. But it is a great engagement moment. And I like the fact that you left that one note out. So we're all kind of, that felt weird. And I think that engages into it. When you go forward, what I want to see is more on those 3 keys. So I loved the great story, the giving us the examples, the photos that you did. That was all really beautiful. But when you got to those three keys, I felt like we went this massive opening and then here's three pointers and move on. And I want to see more with your priority. Here's how you pick your priority. Here's how you find that. Here's how you get to that. When you're at 99% versus 100%, here's what that's going to feel like. It might be different for each of you. Here's some examples. And you could even take your intro story and break it up to be part of each key is maybe a potential idea there. When you get into that, I want to see more in that explanation, because when you're looking at corporate, when you're looking at businesses and you're looking at those motivational moments, what they want is something they can write down in their notebook and take home with them, and something they can be actionable on. So that's really what I would focus on there. But overall, absolutely fantastic. I love the visuals. And then you did use your space. You heard my note about lighting. You heard
I saw the projector was on me. I was like, oh no.
Absolutely. You heard my note about lighting, which I really appreciate. It is hard in this particular venue, but I would say still maybe bypass it and still come over here some and then circle your way back, and then be really careful with those tear offs, because I noticed your corner and I'm one that gets very visually distracted. So I saw that corner and was staring at it going, oh, it's just a last little bit. But
Thank you for being
thanks, Jeremiah. Yeah, that was helpful for sure.
I would even argue, one thing I would recommend is that if lighting is a thing, like if you're gonna go from slide decks, coordinate with somebody to help you with that, because then that won't be an issue. But we need back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone online? I don't see hands up. Anybody? Feedback? Okay, Paul. I see Paul Brooks. Paul?
Hi, thank you. So I'll comment on the one piece I'd like to mention. Forrest, I felt your speech had multiple endings, and I wasn't sure where you were going to take it. So for me, I think I would prefer to see you pick one of those endings and use that as an off-ramp. Watching near the end of the speech, I love that you incorporated what you did in the beginning about the eclipse, looking back towards that 1%. I thought that was a great tie-in, but I kept wondering which off-ramp is he going to take to end the speech? Because I almost thought you ended the speech 3 times, honestly. Also, if you are looking to bring this into corporate world, I would love to see, I'm an engineer by training, I'm a numbers guy. What does that 1% cost me? So for example, if you could provide an example or two of what is bringing a project to 99% and then moving on without finishing the paperwork and filing away. Can you give an example or data of what that cost somebody? I think your example in the beginning is what a personal 99% getting there cost you, but then picking your target audience, whether it's this Toastmasters crowd or a business audience. What am I losing when I give up 99 or that 1% and instead being, I'm okay with 99, that's close enough. Thank you. Back to Tom.
All right. And I think Jeremiah has some feedback. Jeremiah?
I always said I wouldn't follow Hilda. Damn it. Okay. Forrest, I thought you came up here, you looked professional. You connected with your slides as you were doing that. We were able to follow along. It supported the points that you were talking about. I have a couple of suggestions for you, and it's more on the mechanics really of the room. And I think the room would probably change as you kind of grow. As I think you did stand back a little bit, which puts you right in the slides, which puts you right in the projector view. So we could kind of see the slides kind of on your face a little bit, or the projector screen. I would have loved to see in this room, you kind of stand right here, kind of really close, almost awkwardly close to these seats, which really helps with that. You're kind of in the dark at that point. And then from there, I saw 2 closings. So you played the music and you closed, and then you said the Saints go marching in, or the Saints go marching to 100%. And then I kind of smiled and said, that was really good. And then you kept on talking. I would have actually taken the part after that, like the part after you got to playing the music and you said that kind of thing, the kind of the closeout about the song. I would have done that before the music. Said that line, really connect it, drive it home, then finish off by reconnecting to your opening, and then say that line and just be good with it. That's one thing I would have loved to have seen with that. And then from there, and also I wanted to comment, so the ladder, I know you kind of made some things work, obviously for a corporate presentation, hopefully you don't bring your own ladder and stand. I would have liked to seen a professional look. But I'll tell you, it kind of worked a lot of ways because you kind of said, we're going to take it back old school. And then as you did it, you were using this flip chart and it just made it very authentic and it made it almost very comfortable, I felt, because it was kind of going back. We don't see a lot of people do flip charts. And the part that I actually liked is with your flip charts is the corners weren't going off until the very last one where you said, now we're going to finish. And then whenever you ripped it off, then the whole thing came off and it was actually completely finished. So I really thought it kind of finished off like that. I obviously probably not something to take with you on the road, but I do think it worked. And I think it allowed you it kind of gave that, it put the audience in a little bit more casual aspect as well. But overall, great job. I really enjoyed this. Great job today.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And do we have anyone else online? Or in the audience? Okay. Oh, I see. All right. Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Joe is a qualified speaker in District 100.
Yes, that soon is going to disappear, but hopefully we'll still have that there. So, hey, great job for us. It was very media rich. There was a lot going on there. Talking about the corporate aspect of it, I would have loved this would have been absolutely great on stage with the good lighting, with a great big screen behind, a very, very rich for that. The horn would have gone through great in a large auditorium. You could have played your heart out with that. Your voice was very clear, it was very animated. You had a lot of emotion in it. You made good use of pauses. To me, too, on the corporate side, what appealed to me, what got the visceral kind of reaction to me is the marathon finish. That is the race. That's what in the corporate world, we're all racing in the corporate world. And that to me really resonated with me. I think you could have put the slide or the flip charts into the slide deck, and that would have made it to me seem a little more seamless. You definitely dressed the part. Great presentation. Well done.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. All right.
We're in District 100.
So he's biased.
All right. Well, we do have one more presentation and it's almost 9. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Forrest. Richard's a former Speakers Bureau Chair from District 100 and a qualified speaker here and a qualified speaker there. And I thought he might have mentioned that Forrest is also a qualified speaker in District 100. So I laud you for coming out here and joining a club and being ready to be a QS here in District 12 too. Okay. Now, I'm kind of glad I scheduled this the way I scheduled it because our next speaker will be coming up here and we worked it out. We thought we've had some serious topics and now we're going to bring you with maybe a little bit of levity and we'll hear from David Williams and his topic.
I put together an intro because I noticed everyone had it.
Oh, well, I can do that too. As much as I'm almost allergic to the idea of reading from a telephone during a Toastmaster meeting. I'm just too old school for that, I guess. Every day is different, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it. Despite one's best efforts, every now and then one may have those periods where the days go by as just as a mere blur. Every day seems to be the same. Hopefully, there aren't many of those periods. And then there's the other side of the coin. Those periods where every day is different and happily anticipated. And then there's the days like the one in my speech. I'll tell you about it. Is it 3:30 yet? Is it 3:30 yet? David Williams.
Pardon me for the delay. All right, right. Please. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to put my jacket.
There's the I think she's going to be.
Mhm. Mama? Timer, before you begin the timer, I'd like to say something very briefly to the folks online. I would love it if you folks online would unmute your mics. I would love to hear your natural reactions to my speech. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to yell out things like, David sucks, but if there's laughter or possibly even groans, but I would like to hear reactions. Of course, groans, I guess, is nothing but a verbal version of, or a nonverbal version of David sucks, but I still would like to hear your reactions. There's a lot of heavy lifting in my speech this evening, so I brought along my assistant, Dolly. Say hello, Dolly. No, I'm talking to you. Say hello, Dolly.
Hello, darling.
Okay, please don't do that again, whoever that was. Broccoli and liver. As a kid, the two things that my brother absolutely hated were broccoli and liver. I, on the other hand, liked liver. But of course, my mother would make my brother eat the broccoli and liver anyway. Boy, it's good for you. Eat that. But as I said, I, on the other hand, like liver. As a kid, the two things that I actually hated were broccoli and school. I hated school. I was a horrible student. I did as little homework as possible, and I always studied for tests at the last minute if I studied at all. But as a student in school, I always got great grades, mostly A's. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Who invented school? Who came up with this horrible idea? And why? Well, I really wanted to know, so I checked. It turns out that the earliest formal school was established in ancient Egypt in the year 2061. And I'm pretty sure that my third grade teacher, Mrs. Rosenthal, taught at that school. That's a joke, I'm joking. In fact, Mrs. Rosenthal was my favorite teacher at St. Abbot the Great Elementary School in Compton, California. I liked Mrs. Rosenthal. I liked all of my teachers, and my teachers liked me, but I hated school. But I always got great grades. Mostly A's. Now that I'm all grown up, I look back on my earlier self, my younger self, and I realize that hating school wasn't very smart. I've even had moments where I've regretted the fact that my indifference towards school just wasn't a very good idea. I find myself every now and then, because of the fact that I was a good student and I got mostly A's without really trying, I find myself every now and then wondering, what might I have done in school if I had actually tried? I've even had those moments where, once again, I've regretted my indifference towards school. My disdain towards school reached its zenith when I was 11. Now think about it. An 11-year-old can only take so much. How many of you have ever been 11? Okay. I thought so. I was in the 6th grade, and my brother was in the 4th grade. And what I didn't tell you earlier about my brother was that, much like myself, my younger brother, Ricky, wasn't very fond of school either. Probably it was contagious. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of my younger brother from an old family album. Rob? Okay. When I was a kid, I did wish that my younger brother was Spider-Man, but Ricky did work out eventually. Anyway, inevitably the day came when Ricky and I decided that it was time to tell our parents exactly how we felt about school. We knew that no grown-up was going to listen to us, but we knew that we had to do something. We weren't getting any younger. Suddenly, it came to us. We knew that we couldn't do anything rash, but suddenly it came to us, and it was an absolutely brilliant idea. Now, I don't recall which one of us thought of it first, but I do recall that we got the idea from an episode of the TV show Leave It to Beaver. Now, many of the details of what happened that day are still quite clear in my mind, surprisingly, but many of the details are not. At our school, all of the students wore uniforms. Ricky and I got up every morning, we put on a white shirt, we put on a green clip-on tie, and we put on a pair of thick, itchy corduroy pants. The day at school began at 8:30 and it ended at 3:30. But to all of you, that's just 7 hours. But to an 11-year-old kid who hated school, that's not 7 hours. That's forever. Now, the only thing that we needed was a plan. We needed a well thought out plan that would ensure that we didn't get caught. So Ricky and I immediately put together a plan. Now, I brought a copy of the plan that we put together that day, and when I enlarged it so you'd be able to read it when I turn it around. And this is the plan that we came up with. Everyone, our day of freedom, on our day of freedom on that morning, Ricky and I walked the 1-mile route to school. Pardon me. And as usual, we arrived at school at 8:15, and then it happened. Then it began. Then it hit us. We're at school. What are we doing at school? We were at school and we realized we had just broken the most fundamental rule of playing hooky. You see, if you're going to play hooky from school, then you don't want anyone at school to see you there at school. But there we were, at school. We immediately had to hide. It was not a good start to our day of freedom. Fortunately, nearby on the playground, there was a small wooden booth that the school often used to sell cotton candy during school fairs. We climbed inside of the booth. Now, the sides of the booth were about 3 feet high, so we had to crouch down in order to keep from being seen, but at least we were in the clear. But once we got inside, we were both too scared to raise our heads to look around to see if we could get out of the booth. You see, the nuns at our school patrolled the schoolyard religiously. Well, they patrolled it constantly. And the nuns at our school were like a SWAT team dressed in habits. So we didn't raise our heads to look around. Instead, we did the next best thing. Nothing. We did absolutely nothing. We didn't raise our heads and risk being seen. We stayed in that booth the entire day hiding. We sat on the ground in our thick, itchy corduroy pants for 7 hours. Or in other words, we stayed in that booth forever. Now, 7 hours sitting in that booth, think about it, Toastmasters. You can fly from New York to London in 7 hours. Anyway, on our day of freedom, we sat in the booth during lunch, and while we were in the booth eating our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that our mother had made for us, we could hear the other kids laughing and playing in the schoolyard nearby. They were running free. How ironic. It seemed that they didn't have any idea at all what day it was. It was our day of freedom. We didn't get caught that day, but it would be foolish to say that we got away with playing hooky that day. Even though we didn't go to class that day, some might say that Ricky and I still learned a lesson, but I wouldn't say that. In all honesty, I didn't feel I learned anything. The importance and the immense intrinsic value of school is undeniable. As a parent myself, I did everything possible in order to see to it that my children and my grandchildren received the best education available. But as a kid, I never stopped hating school. Long after our day of freedom, Ricky and I got up the courage and we told our parents what we had done. I think I was 31 at the time, maybe 32. I truly don't know why, and I've stopped trying to figure out the reason, but as a kid, I hated school. I was an absolutely horrible student. I did as little homework as possible. I always studied for tests at the last minute, if I studied at all. But I always got great grades. As a matter of fact, I always got A's. But when it came to playing hooky, I got an F, a well-deserved F. What was to be our day of freedom turned into something quite the opposite. We spent that day not running free, not even for one single minute. We spent that day hiding in a wooden booth, and as a result, my day of freedom was not the day that I expected to be. I can only imagine now what I must have been thinking then. For those 7 hours, I was probably thinking just one thought, probably the same thought, from 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon, as I sat in that booth on the ground in my thick, itchy corduroy pants for 7 hours. I must have been thinking, is it 3:30 yet? Mr. Toastmaster.
I'll take the microphone back.
I was going to sell it on eBay.
Thank you, David, for bringing us a little bit of a smile at the end of a serious meeting. And I know why I like you so much, because I hated school. I never did homework either. Never really appreciated school till I was a mailman for 2 years in Illinois. And working hard at a job will make you appreciate education. Sarah, did you have anything that you wanted to announce? We can give you a couple of minutes, even though I forced this thing to be over a little bit, but we will have to have some word from the district. Sarah?
Thank you.
And by the way, we have to congratulate her on being our new leader for next year.
Thank you all so much. I did want to take a quick moment to point out that our fabulous current club growth director from District 115 and our program quality director elect for 203 is online. Cynthia, I don't know if you can come on camera or say hi quick. Hi, Cynthia.
How are you?
Wonderful. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us at Speakers Bureau.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It was very interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is something District 12 has been doing for a long time, so we're really excited to share it. With
right,
that,
great.
I did want to thank you so much. And with that, I did want to announce that we will have our TLI on June 6th. So for anyone and everyone who is looking to do that leadership training, our next TLI will be June 6th. And I believe, Cynthia, did you have your dates for 115?
Yes, we do. Give me a few minutes to find. We just received it today, and I'll announce it. I was going to send it to you, see if anybody wanted to do it too.
Awesome. Yes, we'll send them all out. We are going to also share some different information. They did share dates at the business meeting as well. But keep in mind, our next big phase is our district is to get our leadership training for the next round. And as we come up to the end of our year, please look for those final pushes to hit you over distinguish. We are very close with a lot of clubs, just that one member, that one more educational, and you will be hearing from us about more of that. With that, I will hand this back over to Tom because I know we are short on time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And of course, it's time to get your officers selected. So find your new leadership from your clubs for next year. And that race to your distinguished club and distinguished division and distinguished area and distinguished district is not over. We still have a lot of time left to get those last few members. And don't forget about those people who used to belong to your club. They might just come back and rejoin. I see a hand. Rob, you have a question? Yes. Oh, April? Yes, April.
Yes, so just wanted to extend an invitation to everyone for Road to DTM Club, 7 a.m. on Friday morning. We will have open house and we will have past international director and multi-DTM earner Richard Snyder, who will be joining us and speaking to us and sharing why multiple DTMs. Plus, we have an exciting meeting, so please feel free to join us 7 a.m. on Zoom.
Okay, and one more thing, you stimulated my brain because I see Lois in the audience, and I won't call upon you to, but please call up if you're having problems with pathways. She already solved the problem for me. Get a hold of Lois because that could be the key to your clubs becoming distinguished. Thank you, all of you, for being here, and we will, as always, tell our QS candidates by 24 hours what the result is. Thank you all for being here. Oh, one more? Oh, yeah, I mentioned a memory book that they can still order that.
Did you already mention?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, tell them about this.
Readers and writers are having some of those people who have written in the memory book will be coming to their open houses. It's May 12th, 26th, June 9th, and June 23rd. If you've written something in the memory book, contact Connie or I, and we will see about having you come to share that information, correct? Okay, is that good? All right. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.